Right, Savio. Am I saying this right? Savio Almeida.
Absolutely correct.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. I think it's from all the U.S. television I read because actually no, there's quite a few Almeidas that play baseball. I think it's where that's how I got your last name right. What's the ethnicity on your name?
The name is actually Portuguese.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, but I'm not Portuguese. I'm from India, from East India.
Uh-huh.
My grandparents were Portuguese, and as you know, India was colonized by a lot of Europeans for 500-600 years. So mainly by the British, but there were also Portuguese there and a small Dutch population. So
cool.
Yeah.
And then how did you make your way to Canada?
Ooh, that's a long story.
The 30-second version.
Well, once upon a time in a land far, far away, two people. No, yeah. I came through Canada via, let's say, 3 countries that I actually lived in, and 50 countries that I passed through.
Oh my God! Yeah, how old were you? How old were you when you arrived here then?
This was not long ago, 5 years ago. So,
wow.
2015. Yeah.
Your English is so good.
Yeah. I went to British school. So I grew up in Dubai. The little country that everybody drives a red Ferrari, and we have oil fields in our backyard.
Yeah.
So I started working in a food packaging company. At that time, they were the leaders of in food packaging. And I was lucky enough to move up the corporate ladder to the point that in 2005 or 6, I got transferred to the head office in Switzerland. And I lived there for a few years. I met my wife there. And then from there, our next post was in Kazakhstan. So eastern part of Russia, right on the border of China there. Amazing experience, amazing people. I loved it. But still a very much third world country, Russian speaking. And we stayed there for 4 years. And the next place was supposed to be Paris, France. That was the next destination, because at that point we were professional expats, if that's a word. So we were moving around every 4 or 5 years, setting up companies, building the local resources, and then moving on to the next place. So
crazy
for expertise. But so at that time we were married 5 years, and my wife told me, she said, "Listen, man, if you want to have my babies, you got to take me to a country that speaks English, and that's it, right?" So. And unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, but fortunately, we had already put our papers to Canada. So at that point, our PR was expiring. So we had a choice. Either we had to go to Canada, like literally at that time, which was 5 years ago, or we continued doing this expat thing. So, and unfortunately, my company did not have an office here in Canada. So I had to pretty much resign and leave that lifestyle. And here I am.
Start from new.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you know about Canada before you decided to move to Canada?
Other than they spoke English here?
Yeah.
No, when we were growing up in Dubai, I think every young kid's, like when we were in high school, the goal was to go to university in the States.
Okay.
That was the big thing, right? So when we were graduating out of high school, it was like, okay, where are you going to go to university, and what are your friends doing? And everybody's going to the States, and that's the thing. And the next biggest thing to the States was Canada, because everybody could not afford it, right? To go to school in the States. So a lot of my friends actually ended up in Canada. In fact, my best buddy came to Canada much before me. So I used to travel here as a bachelor, just to come and see him and hang out with him, right? So I've been here a few times before, and we've done the Toronto thing and done, gone partying and stuff like that. And I really like the culture. And the fact that there was diversity. There's so many different people here, but we're all Canadians. So, that kind of interests me for sure.
That's interesting. And then for the listeners' benefit, what interests me is the fact that from so far away, Canada was the number 2 choice.
Oh, yeah.
Right. How long is that flight for anyone? I don't know. How long is that flight to Dubai? Because I don't even know.
It's about 14 hours.
Okay, so very far away.
Yeah.
So it's basically the other side of the planet. And the second choice for them to leave, for where to go to leave that country, is Canada. That's pretty wild. And all the places in the world, number 2 is Canada. That's just wild. And then for people who wonder why we attract foreign money to Canada, like you said, Dubai, pretty rich company, number 2 choice is Canada. That's just astounding. All right, awesome. Let's fast forward to today. So you're best known for flipping in Detroit.
Yeah.
so let's shock and awe the audience. What's the last deal that you flipped? So what did you? So the last deal that you completed, what did you buy it for? In Detroit,
$57,000.
So you bought something. Okay, so you bought a garage for 57, because that's what $57,000 would get you. So
yeah,
what was that, a garage or what? What is that?
It had a garage on it. Yeah, sure, a detached garage, but it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home in a very nice neighborhood, I would say, called Hazel Park.
Okay, so this is a nice neighborhood too, eh?
Wait till you hear the end result, then okay. I think they agree.
All right, hang on. How big was this?
The home?
Yeah.
It's about, I want to say, this one is a little bit on the smaller side, about 950 square foot.
Okay, so it's like a little bungalow then?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, bungalow, but basement. It had a basement, so not on a crawl space, for sure. Yeah. Block basement. Yeah, so Hazel Park is actually close to downtown Detroit, up and coming. Everybody wants to move there just because it's, proximity to the city. And it is a suburb by itself, so it's self-policed, and they got their own water and utilities and so on and so forth.
Got it.
So so I bought this for $57.
US dollars?
US dollars.
Okay.
US dollars. I put in $25,000 into it.
Okay, before you talk about renos, what was it like? What was the condition of the property like when you bought it? Was it like power sale? Like what was it? You bought it off somebody?
Wholesaler. So I do all my bills off wholesalers. I don't have the time or energy or the resources to go bang on doors or send out red letters or whatever you call them, right? So in my costing, I work only with wholesalers. You know my criteria, and I put their fee in there, so they're happy and I'm happy too.
May I ask the fee? Is that asking too much?
It depends on the wholesaler.
Yeah. It also depends on the spread too, usually.
Absolutely, yeah. So on average in Detroit, you're looking at between $5,000 and $8,000 US.
Right. That's not much money. I'm foreshadowing because I've heard your number before.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like 10% of the price. Okay, got it. But yeah, for listeners' benefit though, like they're often having to do quite a bit of work to sift through lots of properties in order to find you something that's worthy of wholesaling. Okay. So you bought from a wholesaler.
Wait, there's a lot of properties.
Okay. Maybe you should pay them less then. What was the condition of the property?
This one was actually in pretty good shape. It was not as bad as some of the other things I've done there before. So cosmetics for sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to rip out walls. I didn't have to change mechanicals. I didn't put an air conditioning unit in there. Because my realtor said, okay, in that neighborhood, that's what they want. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. I did put a new roof on there, but other than that, it was really cosmetic.
Right.
Floor, paint, kitchen.
Do you know why the seller had to sell? By chance?
It was from another investor. He had renters in there, and I think he just wanted to downsize his portfolio.
Okay. So $25,000 got you an AC roof. What else did you have to do?
Brand new kitchen and updated the bathroom. I didn't do much. I glazed most of the bathroom and I threw in a new vanity in there.
And you're doing this yourself, right?
As in the work?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. No.
Well, what are you doing?
You wouldn't want that house if I was working in it, that's for sure. No, I don't swing any hammers. Absolutely not. I outsource everything. So I get contractors in it. I basically am the GC. So I make sure that
got it.
They do what they got to do.
Got it. Okay. And then, so $25,000, you got quite a bit. You got an AC roof kitchen, I heard you reglazed the tub.
Yeah.
New vanity.
Yep.
Paint, flooring, nothing.
Paint and floor.
That's your money went pretty far. What's the wage? What's the going wage rate in Detroit? Because here, like it can be $25 to $75 an hour that we're paying people, depending on what the skill level.
Yeah. I think the hourly wage is like $12 an hour, something like
that. Is that what you're paying folks?
No, yeah. So great question. Like I don't do an hourly based type project. Like whenever I get a quote, I say this is what I want done.
Yeah.
Give me a quote for it. And through my experience and my learnings, what I've done is that I split up the project as much as possible. So I don't give one guy, the whole house, even though in this particular case it was rather small. I break it up to 5-6 different contractors. That way, I can keep them busy, and I can always, put them under pressure to say that, okay, if you don't want to do this, I got somebody else who can come in.
Right.
At the same time, I'm not restricted in time. That I got to wait for him to do the floors before he can even start painting, right? Or the roof before he can do anything else. Okay. So I split that up as much as possible, and basically I negotiate like hell. The labor is cheap for sure in the States, depending on who you get. Obviously, materials are much cheaper. So that kitchen that I'm talking about, I'll tell you, we put in all new floor, right? We put in all new cabinets, granite countertops, appliances. I spent $8,000 on that whole kitchen. Now, mind you, it is a small kitchen. It's not a big kitchen, right? But yeah, labor and materials included.
Laminate top or stone top?
No, stone, granite.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah.
It's impressive stuff. Okay, so 57 in. Right, plus $25,000 for your renovation. Yep. Not very much. Okay, what did you sell it for?
$125,000.
Okay. So I've been joking. I'm the Asian that's not very good at math, so I can't do this in my head.
Yeah.
So 125 minus $25,000 reno minus 57 you had to pay for it. Oh my god. So gross margin essentially is $43,000 before you pay all your closing costs and legal fees and land transfer and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Did you sell it? Did you have to hire a realtor to sell it?
Yes. I sell all my properties on the open market, so retail. So definitely realtors. That's about 6% in the States, or in Detroit at least.
Yeah, it's still cheap.
Yeah. Well, more than here, sure.
Like gross dollar amount, I mean, even though the 6% is a little high but like the total dollar amount is very low.
Yeah, it's like 45, so that's the difference.
That's wild.
Yeah,
good for you. And then, how many of these are you doing month, a year?
So last year I did 3. This year I'm in the process of 2 currently, and my target for this year is about 10. So I should do about 10 this year.
So you've done year to date, and your numbers are similar like this for your other properties.
Yeah, well, this one was a doozy. This one was a really really nice project, I would say. But generally speaking, I look to make about $30,000. If I can't see $30,000 into the project, I won't touch it.
$30,000 net or gross?
Net.
Okay.
Now, would I take $20,000? Of course I would. But I find that basically at 30, I have enough room
buffer
to make 20. Right. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
For example, this last one, the one that I'm doing right now, it's I budgeted everything out, everything was nice, and so on and so forth. I had $30,000 in there, projected profit, and then we started doing drywall, and we had to take out all the trim from the doors and stuff to replace drywall. And, because the house had been vacant for 5-6 years, water damage. I knew there was water damage in the basement, but all the trim had rotted out. Now that trim is not Home Depot trim. I just got a quote from the mill shop, from the millworks, custom trim. 2 weeks to come out. It's more than $1,500 for like 200 feet linear feet worth of trim, which I didn't budget for. But yeah, so that's gonna come out of my 30 grand for sure. But that's the sort of thing that why I say 30 grand. Others I won't touch it. For my partners, they're still getting a pretty good return on their money. So
right.
So they're happy.
What kind of terms are you offering to JVs? You doing equity? You doing private money? Like as in private money, as in you're paying them an interest rate?
No, I'm doing profit share. So definitely equity. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. How long have you been doing this?
Since 2017, I would say end of 2017.
Right.
Really December. So I would say 2018. So just last year, pretty much in Detroit. Yeah. My first flip was in Oakville. Which.
What year was that?
2017.
Okay. Yeah. What was that like? It's a considerably different price point.
Oh, geez, that one. Yeah, that's the horror story that actually drove me to Detroit in the first place, right?
Okay, what happened?
It's just the sheer weight of the numbers, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't. I was not educated enough. Let's put it that way. It was my first flip. I was learning as I go. I didn't know anything about JVing, let alone flipping a project, right? So I lost money. I didn't lose a lot of money. I think it was about $9.5 grand or something like that at the end of the project. But it did take me 10 months. And I went home to my wife at the end of that project, and I was like, "Listen, we can't be doing this full time. This is not going to work,
Right.
So you got to find something else, and you got to find a cheaper market."
10 months? That's a long flip.
Yeah, that was a long flip. Yeah, I made all the mistakes that rookies do, right? You hire a GC that's not from Oakville. The guy was based out of Markham, and I was at the site more than he was. I guess he didn't think that I was trying to do this full time, so he thought he could just play around. And yeah, all his trades were subcontracted. I thought they were all in house in the first place, so he was not paying them. I was paying him, and so on and so forth. So this delayed everything.
Yeah.
And then of course, I put in really, really nice finishes. We were in Oakville.
Yeah.
Thinking to myself that, okay, would I live in this house? So I went top of the class of everything when I could have done middle and been happy. So all those rookie mistakes, which I think people should make, really, I consider it paid training, right? Because when I went in for my next flip, I knew, and that's why I said right from the start, I break up the project and I don't give it to one guy. Right? I break up as much as possible that I can control all those different pieces. That I can stay on top of them.
Right.
Really,
especially if they just subbed it all out. What was their value then?
Exactly, right? So I think I paid 30 grand. That was his. When I calculated, of course, that was his margin, right? So that was his GC fee. GC. So.
Right. Because I've seen so many GCing where they just sub it out basically by putting up Kijiji ads to find people, or they surf Kijiji for people, and that's what they're subbing out. Because someone from Markham may not. So folks who don't know, Markham is about an hour drive to Oakville, so this is likely out of their zone. There's a chance they don't necessarily have local contacts, existing subcontractors that they have relationships with. So that would be a red flag for me.
Yep.
That's wild. Okay, so you learn with your own money. Good for you. So you used to live in Oakville, but now you're investing regularly in Windsor.
Yeah.
Sorry, Detroit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we moved. We really moved. After that first flip, I was commuting from Oakville to Detroit. So I was out there 5-6 days in a week, and then coming back for the weekend and whatnot. And I did that so the first flip I did in Detroit, it was a 3-month flip, which was great. And we made money, by the way, compared to the Oakville one. So at the end of it, I said, I came back home and I told my wife, I said, listen, I found that golden goose that's going to be laying our eggs. So we got to leave. And she was like, "Oh no, take the kids out of school. This Oakville is really nice. I'm settled here. I don't want to do this." And I'm like, "Listen, man, this, if you want to do this full time, and that's all we got right now, we got to make a sacrifice." So it was a bit of a tough discussion. But what I did was, I still remember it clear as day. I put on the screen the Oakville flip on one side, and the numbers, and then the Detroit flip on the other side. And, it was crazy because she's a visual person, so she's like, "Oh my god, that makes so much sense," right? And so we upped and left. We moved here last summer. Yeah, and it's been wild.
So you moved to Windsor. You didn't move to Detroit.
Yeah. I am Canadian, right? So I don't have a U.S. Green card, so I live as close as possible to where I work.
Right. And my understanding, for anyone who wants to do what you do, you have a business visa for these purposes, so that you can operate your business in the U.S.
Correct.
Awesome. Is that hard to get? In case anyone is interested in doing the same.
Hard when it comes to time, because obviously, again, it depends on what type of work permit that you go for. Mine is basically a 1-year renewable, so it doesn't allow me to get a green card, but it does allow me to work. And then the criteria for that is much less than going for a big setup and whatnot, where you have to actually employ U.S. citizens. So I'm not. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not one of the criteria to get that visa, but there's a certain level of investment. You got to show basically you're bringing money into the economy. You got to show that you're holding assets there, and so on. So there's a list. I mean, I'm sure you're a good immigration lawyer would know what I'm talking about.
Right. So
you got to step legally to make it happen for sure.
So folks, don't listen to Savio and I. Talk to your lawyer if you're interested in doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you are bringing economic value. Like, you're hiring local trades, you're buying materials locally, you're employing, you're buying kitchens from the local kitchen maker, right? So yeah, you are injecting capital and creating jobs essentially.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you're making the neighborhood nicer.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. In Detroit, yeah, absolutely.
That's wild. That's awesome. You'll have to send me some pictures so we can include it in the show notes. What do people tell you? What's people's reaction when they hear you flip in Detroit? Because I've been joking. I'm sure my jokes aren't uncommon. Like, sure, Savio, we'll come visit you in Detroit. Just have our bulletproof vests ready for us.
I got a couple of guns as well if you need.
So we can fit in.
So here's the story, right? So when I first went to Detroit, I went to all the meetups. I observed to find who the players were, and then I went and spoke to one of those guys, or a couple of those guys, and one of them was kind enough to say, "You know what? Come and ride with me in my car. Spend 3 days with me, and you can see what I do, and go where I go, and if you like it, then we can do a deal." And I said, "Wow, and that's free, right? So it's a no-brainer for me. If this is what I want to do. This is what I would do." So on day 2 of that little journey, we he's a wholesaler, so every time he went to a potential seller who called him from one of the flyers he went out, I was there with him and I was having those conversations, right? Or if he went to collect a rent check, I was there and having those conversations. So we drive up to one of these really, your stereotypical Detroit streets, shady looking. It was a bright summer day, and we stop, we pull over, and I'm getting ready to get out of his truck, and he says, "Maybe you gotta sit this one out. Just hang tight, and I'll be back." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Yeah, this tenant's a bit volatile, right?" I was like, "Okay, cool, whatever." I'm sitting in the car, and then he reaches over to the glove box, opens the glove box, and takes out a gun. And I could have sworn the friggin' sky went dark. There was like thunder and lightning, and my palms became sweaty. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what the hell is going on here?" Right? Here's this kid who's relatively new to North America. Canada, you don't see guns and whatnot. And I said, "This is the first time I actually see a live gun."
Really? Nothing in Kazakhstan even?
No.
Okay.
No. No. And really, I was having a crap in my pants, and I was thinking, what the hell do I do? Should I jump in the driver's seat, like just to take off when this guy, if I hear gunshots? Or, I'm checking my phone to see if 911 actually works in my Canadian phone in the US and whatnot. And, it was the longest, I think, seven minutes of my life, because he just jumps in the car, and I'm still thinking about this. And he's in the car again. He's like, let's go. I got the money. We're out of here. So that's hilarious. But no, going back to answer your question, yeah, the Detroit is, you have the stereotypical view that you're going to get robbed or killed, but you know what? That's sexy. People are interested when they hear I'm doing Detroit. They're like, oh, first of all, it's fix and flip, which in itself is sexy, real estate investing, rather than or buying wholesale.
Short term.
Yeah. It's pretty. It's really exciting stuff, and then you're doing it in a place that you might get killed. I don't want to get killed, but I like the idea that I might get killed. That's super interesting. So yeah, I've got a lot of feedback, a lot of interest for sure. Yeah.
And then, how are you structuring deals? Do you mind sharing?
JVs, you mean?
Yeah, because you're not doing this all your own money. How do you structure that?
Not anymore. Yeah, I did the first two with my own money, and because of this interest, again, people came up and said, "Oh, we're interested." So so right now, basically, I find money partners that provide 100% of the money. I find the deals. I do the work, obviously, and get it done, get the realtors in, and sell the property, and we split 50-50 the profits.
So when it's 100% money, you're buying for cash?
Yeah, absolutely.
No mortgage.
No mortgage whatsoever. As Canadians, we can't get a U.S. mortgage.
Right.
At least not with the bank.
Not easy.
Yeah. What I found out recently is RBC is starting a program, and they're trying to promote Canadians to invest in the States.
Right.
So they say that they're going to give mortgages. I've not gone through the process yet, but at that price point, you're just easier off doing it by cash.
Yeah.
You don't want to do all that other trouble, right? So
most people can handle. You're looking for obviously money partners that can handle over $100,000. Because there's lots of people who have that on their HELOCs.
Right. And that's exactly the numbers that I look at. I try to stay all in purchase price and rehab costs about $100 US. That's my sweet spot at this point. And then we're selling these for 150 plus. So by the time you take out your closing costs and holding costs and whatnot, you're netting about $30,000.
Got it. Very cool. I'm actually reading in Ron LeGrand's book. He talks about just getting private money. It's funny because everyone's teaching this stuff. I always like to go back to the beginning, like whoever originated. Like I'm not saying Ron LeGrand originated like wholesaling and flipping, but it's just funny reading it because I swear I've read his stuff so many times after he's written it. Just my 2 cents. I like to go back to the beginning. He actually talks a lot about just getting private money, just paying people an interest rate. Because my own experience is I'm having to pay I'm paying a pretty high percentage on a B lender mortgage for my current property. It's actually funny to take a step back. How you said you laid out your Oakville flip next to your Detroit flip. I did nothing of the sort when I explained to my wife why we bought our last property, and she was not happy about it. I'm thinking, I really should have done a little bit more presentation preparation to explain to my wife why we bought a house sight unseen without conditions. And anyway, and listeners, please don't do what I do. I've been around a little bit longer. And then, do people need to be concerned about tax implications because the income is earned in the U.S.? Like, say, like your JV partner, for example. Like, do they need to open a corporation in the States or something like that?
Short answer, no. But my advice is to do so because when you start investing in the States, honestly speaking, and maybe this is counterintuitive to the Canadian investor, but honestly, you won't go back. You won't come back because the
got it.
tax benefits that you have is so much more than you have here, right? So Can we get into that, or is that something you don't want to talk about?
I'm guessing your investors probably want to keep going as well, so they don't even want their cash converted back, do they?
Right. So the deals that I'm doing this year, for example, are just repeat, investors who made money off me last year, right? And the thing is, in the States, you have something called the 1031 exchange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, the capital gains, you don't pay any capital gains tax on capital gains when you sell a property if you invest that money into another property, right? As long as it's equal or higher value, which is awesome. So also, what I understand, and this you definitely have to ask your CPA, but you can accumulate that. So let's say you do 4 or 5 flips in the year, and you make 20 grand on each of those flips. So now you have $100,000 in profit in capital gains. You can take that $100,000, buy a cash flowing property, and you wouldn't pay any tax on that. So that full $100,000 is available for your disposal,
right?
Which is freaking awesome, right? So then you collect rent in US dollars, and that's 35% right there. So there are some good things of having a US court, but I have investors who basically we do JVs with their Canadian corp and my Canadian corp. They don't see it as a long-term thing, or they don't want to go through the hassle of opening a U.S. corp. So different ways to do it, for sure.
Very cool. Sure. And you've met some other Canadians doing this, right? Because I remember when we met for coffee, when a bunch of us met for coffee, you met some other folks from Ontario who are investing in Detroit.
Yeah, 1 or 2. Not many, Not many.
Okay.
So.
Oh, sorry. I think some of them are investing in Windsor. They live in Toronto, investing in Windsor.
Yeah, that for sure. Yes, because Windsor's cash flow central, but we can talk about that in another podcast. But
right.
No, in Detroit, very very few and far between. I'm sort of now getting a hat of the Detroit guy, right? So people are coming up to me. I've heard of other investors or Canadians in other parts of the States. Most of them actually live in the States, so they've done this enough times and then bought their house in Florida with no tax implications, and that's what they do full time. So, but they moved there,
right. I know you're not an accountant, but for example, if say I gave you 20 grand and you turned it into 100 grand via flipping, and then can I go buy and then say I take the 100 grand to buy a condo for me to live in? Does it have to be an investment property, or can I just buy anything and do whatever I want with it for it to be tax free under the 1031?
In the States?
Yeah.
We definitely have to ask the
okay
specificities of this from a CPA, but what I understand is that it could be a primary residence.
Or even a primary residence. Wow.
As long as you invested in another asset.
Right. Right. Okay. So whenever I think something, I think I should just tell people. Even though some people will be upset. Okay, so this is not a political statement. But the Harper Conservatives, this was a proposal they had, I believe, the first term that Harper was running was to implement a 1031 exchange for Canadians, a Canadian version of this to spur investments. So again, not political. It's just putting it out there because I remember this happened. And then he didn't do it because the opposition was that this 1031 exchange felt like they were doing too much to help the rich and not enough to help the poor. So anyways, I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Okay. Bring it back.
So you have other investments too, because I know you have at least one Hamilton property, right?
Yes, I do. And I have a few in Windsor.
Oh, okay.
In Windsor now. Yeah.
What's the strategy there? So
I like to say that basically I do my Detroit flips. I take the money and I run. Because
the bolts are flying. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
So 2019, my strategy was really the active side of my business is the flipping, obviously, right? And the passive side, which we all know is not really passive, is the buy and hold. But I wanted to do that at home, so closer to home. So that's how I started building up my buy and holds, my rentals in Canada, more specifically Windsor, because number one, I live here. But again,
close to home,
yeah. And then I did. I don't know if your audience wants to hear this, or you want to hear this, but I did the same exercise. I did my Hamilton cash flow on one side and then my Windsor cash flow on the other side, and I was like, okay, no brainer here, right? So yeah. Now, mind you have to, like any serious investor does, you have to look at the market fundamentals, and you got to know what's happening in the city and so on and so forth before you make that decision. But right now, Windsor is just it's exploding, right? So it's slow heaven, and you still get really good deals for Torontonians. It's cheap, right? Yeah. But now, having said that, me personally, my strategy might change in 2020, where I'm thinking that basically, the 1031, I got to use this more and probably buy and hold a few properties in good cities in the States. Right off the bat, I don't think I'll do it in Detroit from a buy and hold point of view.
Hawaii. What does Detroit have? What's driving prices in Detroit? You're saying things are improving.
Yeah. No, it's they like to label themselves as a comeback city. That's what they call themselves now. But hey, if you're rock bottom, there's only one way to go, right? So I laughed at that a little bit. But no, there's a lot of investments, into the city. The sports teams are really pushing things, eh? So the Tigers are there. The Pistons are there. They have new stadiums now. The big thing this year is the PGA is coming back. The PGA Tour is coming back. So I think in the summer, June, sometime mid-June, and they have the contract for 5 years. So there's a lot
good for tourism.
Good for tourism and development as well, because they're in the downtown core. They're doing a lot of upgrades. So uLine, which is basically the subway system there, they're pumping a lot of money into that, and they try to extend that to the suburbs as well. So that has obviously a offshoot where people want to move to the suburbs, and then make it easy. The big three automobile companies are still there for sure, very heavy presence, but from what I understand and what I read in the news is that they are focusing. They're changing their focus more from manufacturing, where Detroit was really a manufacturing hub for the automobile industry, to more tech based. So GM, Ford, and Chrysler, they're focusing on obviously autonomous vehicles, like everything is going towards these days. And Detroit is really the hub for these engineers and these techie guys, basically, to come and do their research there. So the R&D, they're moving there. So that's having a huge impact, and that's actually stemming across the river to Windsor as well. So we can see that here, where they're trying to recruit the tech professionals from Toronto and make them come closer this way to attract that talent. So so there's a lot going on for sure. For sure.
So what's your plan for buy and hold? Which city you want to do? Windsor or something in the States?
Yeah, this year is still Windsor. So I have a goal of doing 5 this year. So we've already got 2, closing on one next week. We're actually going to convert that, do a legal conversion. So that'll be interesting in Windsor. But I already have a ex-inspector in my pocket. So that should help.
You're friends with an inspector. He's not. It's not the other. Just for listeners, that benefit. He's not talking about like everything's above board.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're friends. You have beers together.
No. Actually, so she used to be an inspector, and now she has her own architectural firm. So she went solo. I mean, she went independent, basically.
Right.
She knows she knows the rules. She knows exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
She still has the network within the city. So
excellent.
So she's going to be doing the drawings. But yeah, so I got to get 3 more this year. That's my goal. And then next year, for sure, I think I'm going to focus more on buy and holds in the U.S. Yeah, acquire a few there.
So your Windsor strategies buy like wartime bungalows and doing legal basement suites.
Yeah, that's so. Here's the thing. So Windsor is basically known for, from an investor point of view, for two things: legal duplexes and student rentals, and that's it, right? Now, obviously, I'm part of the Rockstar group. I'm part of the iWIN group. Where you guys are super successful in the Hamilton area, Mountain area, and you've done great things there. And I'm thinking to myself, when I came here, like, why can't we do this here? Because that's all there is in South Windsor, where I live, is really just wartime bungalows, right? So you're looking at between 1,000 and 1,300 square foot bungalows, already with separate grade entrances, most of them, right? But nobody's ever converted those legally. So that's something that I'm starting to do now. As I said, my first one this year was like that. It already had a mother-in-law suite in there, but the second one I'm actually going to legalize. I'm going to convert, and I think it's going to blow up here because, funny enough, I think it's the sixth or top 10 highest in all of Ontario school this year.
High school?
No, high school. I'm talking about high school.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, Vincent Massey is called.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Asians, as you know, might want to come in there. So property prices are going off the roof in that area in South Windsor, and the primary schools are pretty damn good too. So we'll see how it goes.
What are home prices like? What's the range that you're having to pay for?
So this one I got off for sale by owner, $275. And the one before, it was listed. There was a bidding war. That one I got in January. So I won the bid at $356. The second high, it was listed at $299. $299, so $300. And I got it at $356. The second highest offer was $350, which was another investor out of Toronto. So, so you know where it's going.
All right. How are you finding? How are you finding your budgets for second suite? Like, for example, this is a common issue for all investors in the GTA Golden Horseshoe is labor and material costs are just going up and up and up. Like our basement prices are almost doubled in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Is this similar for Windsor?
Great question, because I was talking to somebody in the iWIN meeting, the last one, and I was asking exactly the same question. And they were saying they're paying upwards of $80,000 for legal second suites. I don't know if that's common amongst most investors there, but in Hamilton, so here we have a budget of $50,000. Now, will we come into that? I'm yet to see. But ask me again in a couple of months. But that's what we're budgeting for.
Right.
So yeah.
There seems to be a bit of a labor shortage for folks who are in these trades that we need to do these basements, so they can almost ask for what they want to make.
Yeah. More so in Windsor, because it's a really small community. So and I see it more because, again, I work in Detroit, for my flips. The pool of resources is massive. It's just massive. I mean, U.S. compared to Canada for anything is so much more. So in Windsor, the contractors, I mean, once you've done one or two, you've pretty much seen every single contractor that there is here. So I'm gonna have to get my Detroit guys to come and do some work here.
Fantastic. I just Googled Windsor's unemployment rate. It's 6% in July. This is last year. January, Windsor actually dropped below the national average. Wow, I remember back in the day, Windsor was around 8-10%.
Yeah, they got hit pretty hard. I mean,
automotive.
But since then, over the last, I would say, what was that, 2007, 8, 9? Since then, it's just been on the up, really. So, yeah.
City's unemployment rate for December is 5.4%, matching the provincial rate. That's December 2018. So not that long ago. Impressive.
Again, they're trying to really market themselves as the southernmost tech hub. So for sure, nowhere close to Kitchener-Waterloo or Toronto, but they're trying to, because of the big three across the river, they're trying to attract a lot more talent. We have Quicken Loans coming in as well. They bought up a building here, so I think they have 30, 40 new recruits, Canadians, that they're going to put in that building here in downtown Windsor, and their game plan is to actually come into the mortgage. Quicken Loans is the biggest mortgage lender in the U.S., so they want to tap into the Canadian market, and this is where they're starting off. So.
Interesting. So Windsor's 2016 population was about 217,000. Do you know Detroit's offhand?
Oh no, offhand. I should look that up.
Because I imagine it shrank a lot from the automotive days. Whoa, Detroit's really big. Detroit 2017. Detroit is 673,000. That's a very big city.
Not geographically, eh? So
like 673,000. I think that would probably put it second in no, I think that probably put it like third biggest city if that was in Ontario. Because I think Toronto and Ottawa would be the only ones bigger than that. Interesting. Fascinating. Wait, what else? What tips do you have for anyone who wants to flip in general, and also anyone who wants to flip in the U.S.? How did you choose Detroit? Just because geography is close? Why did you choose Detroit over like Buffalo?
Yeah, no. So I actually went to Buffalo. I checked it out.
Yeah.
But the average age of a home in Buffalo is 250 million years plus or something. They're like really old century homes, right? So after one flip in Oakville, I wasn't about to go and open up some walls in Buffalo and find out.
Knob and tube.
Yeah. So and the price point, again, the entry point was a little bit higher than Detroit, and Detroit for me at that time was 3 hours away, which is not long. You get used to it pretty quick. So
right.
Just from the price point, the market was going up. The homes are easier to do. The resources are there. So yeah, that's why Detroit for me.
Right.
But going back to your question, like tips, I've spent that big money on training and whatnot, which is all good, and I can't fault it for any reason. But if somebody wants to start off, or even if you are an investor but you don't know what to do, my biggest tip is two things. So two resources. One is all the meetup groups. I mean, I wouldn't have done Detroit if I didn't go to every single meetup group for I think 3 months before I even bought. So you pay them a nominal ticket fee or whatever, but it's the most beneficial thing that you can do for yourself if you don't know what you're doing, because you just find like-minded investors and you just talk, right? So and that's really how I got started in Detroit. I mean, every single contractor that I use today, well, I shouldn't say every, but 3/4 of them I've got through a meetup, because I've talked to another investor and I asked him, hey, listen, I need my roof done. Do you know somebody? I need my windows done. Do you know somebody? Right? So the power of meetup is just, it's intangible. I can't put a number to it, right?
Excellent.
That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, of course, podcasts. Now I have the luxury of making a 3-hour drive for the, for the most part of my working day. So,
you're driving from Windsor to Detroit still 3 hours?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
But I do. So going back to the meetups, I do all the meetups still on the east side, right? I come for yours. I go to the Rockstar. I go to another one, the Right Club in Burlington. Every meetup that I can possibly make out to, I do it. Just because, again, the power of it is just incredible. So during those drives, what am I doing? I'm 2 podcasts and I'm there. So it's a really short drive, right? So that's another place that definitely, I want to say that everything that I learned in those training programs that I actually paid for, the big money, I could have learned in either of these 2 places, either in a meetup group or in a podcast.
Right.
So if you don't have the money, or, stop making excuses, I would say just do one of the 2 and you'll get there.
All right. It's funny because I had some feedback on the podcast saying just go read a book instead of listening to this podcast. I don't know where they learned this, where they learned numbers, what the top school is in Windsor that Chinese people are buying into the neighborhood, but yeah, what do we know?
Haters, gotta love them.
That's awesome that you were so successful in meeting good people at networks. There were one of the truths about real estate investing is that there's any industry where there's money to be made, it usually attracts the underbelly of the population. How do you say? Like you still run into those people you shouldn't trust at these meetups, right? Because I'm not dissing the meetups that you go to. I just want to warn listeners, like, be wary of who you're talking to. Yeah,
I mean, by all means, warn people, but if you ask me personally, I've not met any of that kind of person so far.
Nice.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I go to these things thinking to myself that I'm going to meet good people and I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to network and before I don't meet those kind of people. But I can't really say that I've met somebody who seems shady or I wouldn't trust anything he says. Not so far. So
right.
Touch wood, at least.
No, it's I just bring this up because again, thought pops in my head. I feel I should share it because someone was telling me they were at a real estate conference on Saturday, and a Northern Ontario expert in multifamily was pitching her a property in Sault Ste. Marie. Right, this investor's from the GTA area, Toronto area. And the property's in Sault Ste. Marie, so that's 13 hours away. So if you think your drive is bad, right? And then my comment to her is, if they're an expert, why are they having to pitch a property to a complete stranger at a weekend conference? So that's like, to me, that's red flag. It's not red flag. It's like, do your diligence. But why are they selling it to you? They don't know you, right? If you're an expert at something, you usually know who to bring deals to. And it's usually not a stranger at a weekend conference.
Sure. Absolutely. Due diligence is number one, right?
Excellent.
Know the market, know what you want to do, and go all out.
Right.
When you trade, right? So.
And the other thing that just wanted to comment is, one of the mistakes investors often make is they'll go to buy it cheap. That's the main objective and main driving factor why they purchase a certain property, right? So Detroit, we can say very affordable, cheap, whatever. But you're telling me that there's already price movement upwards for the areas that you're investing in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, market fundamentals, dictate where I buy, right?
Right.
Detroit they have pockets of good neighborhoods and shitty neighborhoods, right? And so you gotta know where you're going for sure. And again, I wouldn't know these things if I didn't find the power team, like the local people in Detroit, right? I found in these meetups, but I do for example, when a wholesaler brings me a deal. So every morning when I wake up, I have tons of deals because I've met these different wholesalers, right? And each one is thinking that they have the best profit line or whatever. But I know now a little more of the neighborhoods that I want to work in, just because it's safer. The city is not so picky. When you have to get like a certificate of occupancy, for example. So that I streamline right off the bat. Like, okay, these are the ones that I want to look at more, and then I send them off to my realtor. And I say, hey, listen, man, this is what it is. Tell me, are these ARVs true to what these wholesalers are saying, right? And then he does his analysis and he sends me back. So all this happens really quickly now, obviously. But, knowing that market fundamentals is super important. I'm not buying any old thing because it's cheap. There has to be an aftermarket that actually is going to buy this thing, right? After. That's otherwise what's the point? So
for listeners' benefit who aren't familiar, ARV is short for after repair value, and that's the retail price of the property to be sold on like Realtor.ca type thing, on the open market. So Savio is asking his realtor's opinion. What can he sell? What can he sell the properties for once they're renovated?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. That's happy for you that you've been so successful meeting your contacts and making really good contacts to make your deals that much smoother and much more predictably successful.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, so if anyone wants to follow you, Snapchat, Instagram.
I'm not that young.
What are you on?
Yeah, social media, all the social media for sure. At least the ones that I think that are important: YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook business page. So all of the handles are the same. It's Real Estate Investor Sav, all one word. So Real Estate Investor Sav, SAV. And search me up, DM me, private message me. Like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and we can have a chat.
Awesome. Yeah, because you mentioned you emailed me saying that you're willing to return the favor if someone wants to come ride with you to see your property.
Yes.
You've got a gun loaded in your glove box should they need it, right? That's the way.
Yeah. Some machine gun or Uzi.
You drop it in a box before you cross the border back to Canada. You pick it up when you're back in Detroit.
Urban, I only look big. I would compare it like I would have a penknife. That's my weaponry. But no, absolutely. The biggest thing that got me started in Detroit, as I said, was this one guy that I met there. Who took me in his truck for 3 days and showed me the ropes. And I just want to return that favor because if anybody has any interest, they want to see, but they don't want to jump in the deep end, if you will. They want to just test the waters. Then out with me, and you can sit in my car and we can do a tour. It's really half a day. You spend half the day with me, and you can see what Detroit investing is about. And I'm sure even if you don't do anything, it's going to be interesting for sure. For sure.
Interesting. And just for the listeners' benefit, Savio and I we were actually hoping. I'm a bigger basketball fan than Savio, but I was hoping that Toronto would play Detroit in the playoffs, so then we'd have an excuse to come visit Savio. Because Raptor tickets are stupid expensive in Toronto. I'll Google. Hang on. I'm gonna Google what Detroit tickets are.
Yeah,
because Toronto prices on everything is expensive. Detroit Pistons tickets.
I still have hope, eh? So Eastern Conference Finals. that's the place that we're gonna go see them.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, that's funny. Ticketmaster.ca sells Detroit. Oh, let's do that. Let's click on Ticketmaster.ca. Maybe we can get some Canadian pricing on tickets. So, see, yeah. Is this no game one? No. It's not easy. I have to buy Milwaukee tickets. Let's see what tickets go for in Milwaukee. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Unless you want to go, we'll go meet in Orlando. Save money on tickets. So it's going really slow, so we won't wait for that. But Savio, thank you so much for doing this. Congratulations on your success. That's amazing. Any final thoughts you want to leave for folks who haven't gotten off the fence yet for investing in general? Yeah,
let me start that by saying, first of all, thank you to you, Erwin, because I really consider you as my mentor. Somebody who's been there, done that, and is still continuing to do that, which is awesome. When I first came out of your meetings, I was just starting in my flipping business in Detroit, and I was like, man. And that time I was really in Windsor. I was thinking to myself, man, why didn't I find this guy before? This is the place I want to be. And the things that you put out is like amazing. I know you've heard this enough times, but I just got to make sure that your listeners know, like, to put up a show that you do in the iWIN meetings, or the content that you put out for free, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of balls, and I really want to commend you on that. So keep doing that, because not only are you guiding us, but you're actually following our growth, and that's super important, because you need people to really bounce ideas off and to tell you, sometimes to say, what you're doing, that's the wrong thing, do something else, right? Really thank you for that, and keep it going, man. Keep it going.
It's my honor. I've seen too many people lose money to shady people, so we want to expose those things on this show, and also expose people to best practices. on how to improve their wealth for the sake of their favorite charities and their families. Very cool.
No, absolutely. And that answers the question, right? So like if somebody's still sitting on the fence to do anything in real estate investing, it doesn't matter if you're in Detroit or in Oakville or in Toronto or in Dubai or in Kazakhstan. I think if you're still sitting on the fence, go out and meet like-minded people, right? The greatest thing that, you say it all the time. And I think, was it Jim Rohn who said that first, was you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with, right? So come out to these meetings, wherever it might be in your local market, because that's the best thing you can do for yourself. The energy out there is so, so good. And even if you're like the most introvert person in the world, the people that you're around will just bring that thing out of you, right? And you'll get started. So don't sit on the fence about what you're going to do, but come out and it'll happen. It'll just happen.
Yeah, meet people who are actually doing, because if I'd never met you, I have no interest in seeing anything in Detroit.
I'm still gonna get you out here. Sure.
And you even opened my eyes to Windsor, because my context of Windsor's old, back from like 2010, when things were, like I said, like unemployment was probably above 10% back then. So I had no idea that that Windsor's more in line with the provincial average now. So that's fantastic.
We got to get you out to Windsor to speak at one of the events over here. Or maybe we can do an iWIN chapter of Windsor. How about that?
I'll need you to run it. I can't make that 3-hour drive. Savio, thank you again for doing this.
Thank you so much.